Hi, Sandy.
Hi.
How are ya?
Good. How are you?
Good. Welcome to the team.
Thanks. Feeling a little overwhelmed right now.
Yeah, it's like drinking from a fire hose, but it's a lot of great information.
Yeah, I'm diving into everything I can.
Yeah, it's Rachel, by the way. It's
Hi,
not
Rachel. Oh,
Cece.
you're Rachel. Okay, hi.
How are ya?
Good.
Just waiting for Terry to get on, see who else shows up as well.
I mean, I don't need to be here. I'm just joining things to join them to hear what you guys have to say.
Yeah. Yeah, he's going to go over some listings and forms and answer any questions that anyone may have.
Okay.
So it should be good.
Okay.
Trying to get this on to go live on Facebook, but for some reason it's not really working.
I can never figure out whether I'm supposed to be on Facebook joining meetings or here joining meetings.
Either one.
Yeah.
To have options just to be on the safe side.
Yeah.
So everyone can always see them later on as well.
Okay.
Hey, Terry.
Hey, Sandy.
Hi, Terry.
Rachel, how are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Doing fine, thanks. Let me crank up the volume so I can hear everybody a little bit better here. How's that?
Good. And I'm making you host right now. There we go. And I am attempting to get this onto Facebook Live, but it is literally spinning.
Okay, no problem. So yeah, I know PJ was having a trouble with that the other day, and I think he maybe had to do that on his personal page, but I don't think that's a good idea for this class, since we're kind of giving tips and tricks to our agents.
Okay. I won't put it on Facebook Live then. Well, I'll let it keep spinning and hopefully it'll pop up here pretty soon.
Yeah, as long as it goes into our closed group, that's fine, but otherwise we won't worry about it.
Perfect.
Okay, Sandy, is it all possible to share your video so we can see each other as we talk?
Oh, yeah, that's great.
You can put on a hat or sunglasses or or whatever.
And you know what? If I'm the only one in here, I don't want you to do this for just me, because right now it's over my head.
Well, that said, Sandy, I'm happy to do it one-on-one with you. I want you to get the most out of it you can, and I'm sure it'll go pretty quickly, because we're just going to dive into what is on the top of your list. There's a lot to do. You're new with us, right?
I'm new with you. I'm new into the industry, and just literally this week started in on everything.
Okay, so we won't get too much in depth. I know how easy it is to feel overwhelmed and overloaded when you're not just learning real estate, that you're having to also try to learn the technology and do a lot of things. And I was there once many years ago, and the biggest challenge to me, even back then, was just the technology, because I had never had to use a computer for day-to-day operations and work purposes. All my work in the past was hands-on.
Yeah.
So that was stressful to me, not so much the real estate, but just kind of putting it all together. So,
right.
So I see Callie has jumped on here. Let's see when she gets connected here. Hey, Callie.
Hey.
How are you today?
Good. Sorry, I'm a little late.
That's okay. Perfect timing. We're just kind of getting started. It looks like we've got Sandy, who's new to the business. And as I was telling her, we're just going to kind of do this a little different today. We're going to gear it in specifically to what you guys need. Kind of start at the very, very basics and just do some questions and answers, and just kind of help you in any areas that you guys feel a little challenged right now. How's that? So let's dive right in. So Sandy, the purpose of this class technically is about listing forms and how to fill those out, and tips and tricks for securing listings. In our business, there's a saying, so listings last. In other words, you need listings to stay in the business because listings also get you buyer clients. So we definitely want to pursue listing leads. And if you, or Callie, anybody for that matter, run across something that you're challenged to buy and, well, I'm not sure if I should take this, it's over my head. Hey, ask for help. That's what we're here for. Maybe you could partner with another agent who's got some more experience. I know when I took my first big listing to me, which was about 700,000 many years ago, at the time I was fortunate enough to get one of our senior staff people to go out on a listing appointment with me because I wanted to make sure I nailed that CMA and made a good first impression. So they did for the first 30 minutes or so, and let the seller know that they had a lot of support from the office for me as their agent, should they choose me as their agent, and that helped secure the listing. I got that listing.
Wow.
So I'm not saying as staff members that we're able to go out on listing appointments with you guys, but we will make sure that you've got the support that you need, and maybe an experienced agent can partner with you guys and do that. So how does that sound like something that again, you might need to pursue if you feel like that, hey, I'm not comfortable listing $1 million house as my first listing? Yes, you are. We'll help you. Okay, so what else? What specifically, Sandy, let's go with you first. What are you feeling challenged by or could use some help with today?
What I'm just trying to get, so again, this is just my first week, right? I'm trying to figure out all the technology. Facebook, business cards, I got Instagram, I got my email figured out, I got, all that kind of stuff figured out. But so then when I saw this, I went, oh, maybe I should learn something about what I'm actually going to be doing.
Okay. All right. Well, very good. So as far as the tech stuff, we've got Sue, our tech person.
Right.
So she can help you on that side. And on command, let me just show you real quick what a command screen looks like. So on my side, this is what I see on command. And we'll just click on one of my listings, for example. So I know this is a little bit above. Whoop, hang on. You guys can't see that, can you?
Not yet.
Share the screen. Okay, share. Okay, great. Now you can see the screen here. Tell me if you can.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is the command screen, and we're gonna. So this is what a listing would look like in command. And again, we're not going to get too far into this, but just so that once you have your document signed for a listing, you're going to put it in a listing tab. And every document does have to be put in individually.
Okay.
A little bit different than what we used to with a different program where you could combine a document. I didn't care if it was 30 or 40 pages long. As long as they were all in there, I could review that as one PDF. In command, you do have to upload your working real estates, your RESPA, everything that's on here. If it says required, you would upload that as an individual document, as a PDF. And then once you get everything uploaded and all your documents in there, you're going to click on something up here that'll say submit to MC or submit to Market Center. It's what MC stands for. And then you'll be able to turn that in for me to review, and I would review that. If there's anything missing, I would make notes and send it back to you so that you know what you need to add to that file. Okay. And again, this kind of supports your broker in charge, Rob Pettit, and keeps everybody out of real estate jail, so to speak, by making sure that if your paperwork's right, then you've probably done everything else right. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, so, and you'll see that you can add comments on here. So see, even though this was my personal listing, I made a note to myself when I turned it in. I didn't have a signed CD yet because this was a remote closing. This was because of COVID. It actually closed. I wanted to turn in what I did have. but I didn't have that signed CD. So I just made myself a note, hey, waiting on that signed CD and attorney check to be mailed. Once I got it, then I went back in and uploaded it. So you can add a comment up here and I will see it. And if I add a comment, you're going to see it as well. And this is what you need to look for on command. This little bell up here, there'll be a little red dot. If there's a note from anybody or about your transaction, there'll be a little red dot here. So click on that and you're going to see the notes or comments. So that's a listing. So you would turn it in as a listing. You would turn it in again as it's under contract in that folder, and then you would submit it for final review once it is actually closed and you have that signed CD in there. Any questions on that little brief command?
So is there like a checklist of things we should be looking for to make sure we've uploaded?
Yes, let me see if I can find that for you. There we go. And this is in command. When you DocuSign is where we get our documents for command. And so this is in command. If you want to send me an email, if you don't find it, I'll be glad to send this to you as a PDF. So this is your file submission checklist.
Okay, good.
It tells you exactly what you need when you take a new listing. It's asking you to turn everything in within 48 hours of a ratified contract, whether that be a listing agreement or a being under contract with a buyer, or again when it's closing. So if it's listed on here, it's a have to have if it applies. For example, septic permit, if it's on city water and sewer, the septic permit doesn't apply. If it does apply, now here's a little exception. Every rule sometimes has some exceptions. You may not have a septic permit day one of your listing. So sometimes if the seller does not have one in their paperwork to provide you, you'll have to get that from the county health department. So when you obtain the septic permit from the county health department, some counties require you to do it by email. Some require still actually to be done by fax. Some you may actually have to go to the health department in person to obtain that septic permit. You have to have it if it's on a septic system. So that's not a within 2-day type thing. That may take you a week to obtain that. That's okay. Just know that you're required to obtain it. And the reason for that is, say I have a 4-bedroom house. Okay, and I added an additional bedroom, and so now it's a 5-bedroom house. I added some square footage in the basement and put a 5th bedroom down there, where I finished a bonus room and turned it into a bedroom. So now I have a 5-bedroom house, right? No, if the septic permit says it's 4 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms or whatever the case, you have to disclose in the MLS the bedroom count per the septic permit. That's 100% rule. Now you would add notes and actually write in there, septic permit is for 4 bedrooms. However, an additional room was added after the fact by seller, and the bedroom count could be 5 bedrooms. Okay, but in your MLS data field, your 4 bedrooms has to be what you disclose. It has to match that septic permit. Copy your deed, which if the sellers don't have that, that's not a problem, because those are all online records that you can get from the Register of Deeds office. If it's a new construction, so this is a good one, guys. If you are listing any new construction homes by chance, say it's a small mom and pop builder, somebody that you know, that's fine. You can list that home, absolutely, but make sure you put somewhere in your file a note, just on a piece of paper, I need that general contractor's license number. You need to verify that he has a current North Carolina general contractor's license in order to list that house. We actually, many, many years ago, had an issue where the general contractor was not currently licensed and somebody bought that house. A lot of people could get in trouble if there were issues. If the contractor's not licensed and we're listing the house, is that not some liability for the realtor?
Yes.
Yes. So, so anyway, this is a guide for you guys. Pending sales, MLS sheet. If it's your listing, you're going to have access to that, so we want to see it. If it's not your listing, then if the other agent fails to change it to under contract for the first day or two, don't worry about it. Just turn in what you have. You can always add that under contract sheet later. But if it's your listing, we want to make sure you remember to change it to under contract. And obviously, when it's closed, that signed closing disclosure or HUD, if it's a cash transaction, it'll be on a HUD. The MLS sheet, again, if it's your listing, and if there's a home warranty involved, we want to see that as well. Questions on that? That's your sheet for what you need to turn in once you have a transaction to submit to command.
Okay, and where'd you find that?
That will be in DocuSign. If you will, again, send me an email so that I can reply, I'll be glad to attach that
Thank you.
to the email that I send back to you as well. All right. Other questions? Don't be bashful. Anything at all that you guys are struggling with that's not specifically a tech question, I can help you with. All right. Well, if you think of something, just chime in, but we'll just move along. Let's talk about some listing tips and tricks. So what if you're competing against another agent? You want to do some things that will make you stand out. And can anybody give me some examples of what will make you stand out against another agent possibly? I'll give you a hint. It's in general, it starts with two letters, VP. You'll see this in Keller Williams terms. VP, value proposition. Your value proposition is what makes you or the company stand out. Okay, so that's important when you're in front of a client of any type, is to build up yourself and your company. So obviously Keller Williams has a lot of accolades that you can use to support, hey, we're #1 in a lot of areas. We have the top agents in the Lake Norman area. We do a lot of business compared to some other firms. So there's just a lot of numbers, the language of real estate. So ask your staff, ask your BIC to provide you with some numbers that will help support the fact that our office is out producing other offices or the MLS in general, as far as number of listings or the number of sales, et cetera, et cetera. So you could do that to support the Keller Williams value proposition. And then support your own value proposition. What are some things that may make you guys stand out against the competition? Well, without going into a lot of detail, it could be something as simple as the first thing you want to do is kind of bond with the person a little bit. If you don't know them, find something in common. If you have kids in school, for example, maybe it turns out your kids go to the same school, or you know somebody in common. Especially if it's a referral, you're going to start bonding about the referral from the person that introduced you to. So, get to know them a little personally. Make sure you take our DISC class. Fisher teaches that, DISC, D-I-S-C. It's personality traits. The more you can read the person that you're dealing with, whether they're a high D or a dominant type personality, or other personality traits, the more that you can adapt and relate to them on their level, because it's all about relationships. You want to build that relationship as much as possible during the listing appointment. And of course, be prepared. You need to have your numbers ready. You need to know what the market is in their neighborhood, but what's the market, 2 or 3 miles away? Because if you're looking at values and the house goes under contract, the appraiser or that comes out is in fact going to use a home as a comparable that is not in the neighborhood. Okay, it doesn't matter if you had 10 sales in that neighborhood. It's a huge neighborhood like Skybrook or Highland Creek. There's a bunch of comps in that same neighborhood. That's great, but they're going to need to pull a comp from a similar neighborhood, even if it's 2 or 3 miles away. So, you want to make sure that you also add that into your CMA and pull a comp from a similar neighborhood that would support your opinion of value. Now, sometimes they're a little bit challenging, especially if you're way out in the county and you have very few comps to pull from. That's when you resort to asking for help. Check with your broker in charge, check with other agents. We're all here to help you guys and share our information with you. So, hey, just find somebody that you can talk with and say, hey, could you help me with this? I'm not finding a lot of comps. What could you do to help me get a better market analysis in front of my seller before my appointment? And we're going to help you, okay?
Okay.
Did that bring up any other questions? Just, I'm kind of doing this a little different today just to help you guys specifically. So please fire away with questions.
Real quick, what's your email address?
Email address is T for Terry, D for Dwayne, Rogers is spelled R-O-G-E-R-S @kw.com. So tdrogers@kw.com.
Okay, thanks.
And see that I made a little mistake when I created that back in the day, being new to the business. And that I was, okay, what do you want to have for your email address? Well, there was another Terry Rogers with Keller Williams.
Oh.
So I couldn't use Terry Rogers. But I didn't think about maybe Terry D. Rogers at kw.com would have been a lot better than TD, because a lot of people just, they don't get that, for whatever reason. But being in the business as long as I have, I don't want to go back and change my email now. So if possible, include your name in your Keller Williams address, which I'm sure you probably already created by now, of course.
Yeah.
But, your full name is going to be very helpful to you guys in all your marketing. Kelly, any questions? Anything I can help you with?
Not right now.
Oops. Excuse me, my little glass stuck to my glass holder here. A little iced tea here. Okay. SellerNet, let's talk about that real quick since we're on listing forums. See if it'll pop up here. Okay, you guys see the SellerNet?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, very good. So when you take a listing that it's very important to fill this out, get the seller to sign it. Why is that important? Why is it important to you, and why is it important to the seller?
To us to make sure we're going to get paid.
There you go. That's the number one reason for me, to make sure I get paid.
And for them to make sure that they're going to be able to pay everything off.
Exactly. Yeah, if the seller's going to list their house, they should be walking away with something in their pocket because they're probably going to be buying something else, correct?
Right.
So you need to do an accurate seller net in order for them to determine how much they have to spend, and two, to make sure that their money's in there to pay your commission. So when you fill out this seller net, I always recommend that you guys ask for a copy of their last mortgage statement. Don't go off the assumption, oh, we owe about 200,000. Well, that's not good. About 200,000 could be 195. It could be 215. That's a big range, right? So you want to get a copy of that last mortgage statement, which is a balance. It's not a payoff because you don't know when it's actually going to close. But get a copy of that mortgage balance statement from the last month or previous month or current month. And then that solidifies what the current balance is minus the interest. And you can use that as your baseline. All these other numbers you're going to add in, obviously your commission rate. There's some other numbers if you guys want to just jot these down that I can provide to you if you don't already have them. There's going to be obviously your brokerage fee is your commission. Make sure that you ask them about any home equity loan, any home equity line of credit. That actually has to be frozen and paid off. It's not just your first mortgage. A home equity line or loan is against the house, so that does have to be paid off. So that's part of the lien. Attorney fees, there is going to be a charge for the attorney to bear seller documents, and you can put in there anywhere from $350 to $400 would be a good range. Your commissions or brokerage fees, total fees, which is 6% in a lot of cases. It could be more, right? And also it could be less. Express fees, I would put a $50 figure in there. They're going to have to send that payoff to the lender by FedEx or UPS to get it overnight. So there is going to be a charge for that. Home warranties, almost all buyers are going to ask for a home warranty. So make sure that you go ahead and put a cost in for that. Even if the seller says, I'm not going to do it now, when they get the offer and that's the only thing that's different, sellers are going to pay that, right? I mean, they're not going to walk away from selling their house because of a $500 home warranty. And again, most buyers are always going to ask for that. Throw in another $50 for miscellaneous. Your HOA dues, you normally don't have to worry about prorating those because those are paid, if they're not paid monthly, they're paid quarterly. And that's usually a small amount of money, but your prorated taxes, it's very important that you include that. Okay, we're in, let's just say it's at the end of April. Let's say we take a house to listing today, and we're really confident that it's going to sell very quickly and close. Well, if we take a listing today, you know, it's still going to probably be the end of June. Okay, so that's a full 6 months of taxes that the seller does have to pay at the closing table because they've owned the home for those 6 months. So depending upon the time of the year, you add a little bit moving forward for when you think that home may actually go under contract, and then add another 30 or 45 days for it to close. Estimate your taxes. If the tax bill is $4,000 a year, 6 months of taxes is $2,000. If you don't put that in there, that's going to make a big difference on the estimated net proceeds to the seller. So, because that is money that they do have to pay at the closing table. They actually pay that money at the closing table. It's given to the buyers because the buyer's the one that's going to pay the full year of taxes at the end of the year, because they're the ones that are going to get the tax bill. So that's a little detailed explanation. The attorney will explain that to the sellers in more detail at the closing table, but that's just for you to know is why you put that in there to begin with. Revenue stamps are $2 per thousand or $1 per 500 as it's shown on here. So for a $200,000 house, it's $2 per thousand. That means there's a revenue stamp, which is a tax of $400. So you need to include that in on your seller net. $300,000 home, there would be revenue stamps of $600. So assuming what your sales price is, you put that in column 1, add all these numbers, do your subtractions, your estimated seller cost, including the payoff of all liens, is X dollars, and then what are they walking away with? It says estimated net proceeds to the seller or from the seller. If they're in the hole, then that makes your conversation a little bit different, okay? And everybody's familiar with a short sale as a distressed sale. It's not a foreclosure. Foreclosure, you're definitely probably not going to be listing foreclosures day one, because you have to establish relationships with banks for them to use you to list foreclosure properties. But you may run into a short sale situation if the economy doesn't recover very quickly. We saw those a lot in the recession when the bubble burst in 2008. Saw a lot of short sales for several years. Well, hopefully we won't run into that again. But short sale means the seller does not have enough money to pay off their loan because their house is worth less than what they paid for it. So again, probably not going to see a whole lot of those moving forward, but if you do run across a short sale, please ask for help. They're very, very complicated. It requires third-party approvals from lenders, from title companies, anybody that may have an interest in the loan. Home equity line of credit may not be with the same lender as the first mortgage. That makes it even harder, because then you've got somebody else that is trying to argue over how much do they get out of those proceeds, the shortage. So again, a positive number is good, a negative number is not so good, but if it's like a negative $500, that may not be an issue, right? So you're going to find out from the seller real quick once you do the math. What's the scenario? Why are they looking to sell so quickly when they're losing just a little bit of money? And it could be because of a job transfer, and their employer is relocating them and covering all their costs. Well, then $500 is kind of a non-issue. But you just do need to make sure that they have the funds to bring that to closing if they're short. If they're short $10,000 and it's not a short sale, they're saying, no, we've got the money in the bank. This is not a short sale. We're moving because we want to move, and we have that money. Then you want to obtain proof of funds. You're going to explain to your sellers that your broker in charge and your compliance officers require you to provide a proof of funds letter, because what's going to happen if you don't have that and the seller actually does not have that money when it goes to closing? Who's not going to get paid?
Us.
Yeah, the agent, right. The agent probably won't get paid if the seller's short. So, if I'm going to list a house and it's not a short sale, but there's several $1,000s in the hole, I'm going to want them to provide me some type of proof of funds letter from their bank or a bank statement. I'll tell them, hey, make sure you black out your account numbers. I don't need to know your account numbers or anything like that. I just need to prove to Keller Williams in my office that you have money to bring to closing to cover your fees. And that should be a simple conversation. Okay? So that is your seller net. Yeah, is there another form out there that you guys want me to go over? We're going to finish this about at least 10 minutes before 2, so you can get on the pivot with PJ at 2 o'clock and have a chance to take a little break before then, okay? All right, so let's talk about, what about an unrepresented seller? Okay, you're not listing a home. Maybe you have a buyer and you're working with a buyer and they say it for sale by owner. Can you guys work with that?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So Here's how it works with the for sale by owner. You've got the buyer agency already with your buyer. Your buyer tells you about this property they want to see. What you're going to do is tell your buyer, well, let me reach out to the seller first. There's some disclosures I need to give them, and I'll set up an appointment so we can go see it. Most all of your for sale by owners are going to co-broke with you. In other words, they're going to be willing to pay you some type of a fee to bring in a buyer, because that's more than likely who's going to help them get their house sold is another agent who has a buyer, right? So there's when you approach a for sale by owner and you have a legitimate buyer that wants to see the house, this is a form that you need to get filled out before you show that house. Okay, before you show the house, don't have the buyer in your car or anything like that. Call the for sale by owner, do something to get that appointment confirmed, and let them know, hey, all you're doing is agreeing to pay Keller Williams a fee. If my buyer, John Doe, you do have to give the name of your buyer if they're going to sign this form, they being the sellers. So if John Doe does actually buy your house at closing, you would pay the firm a fee of 3% is what we normally get paid for a buyer agency. So that's what I would recommend that you put down here, 3%. Most for sale by owners understand that they're probably going to have to pay that. 3%, this is a very simple form until you look at page 2. And I've actually had a realtor who had been in the business for years and years that had never looked at read page 2. See, here's one thing about being in real estate is we actually need to read some of these forms. What does it say at the top of page 2?
Make sure that they do the working with real estate agents.
Exactly. So here's the key, guys, and I see this happen from time to time still. Make sure that before they sign this form, the unrepresented seller form, that you've already given them the Working with Real Estate's brochure, and then ask them to sign that, acknowledging that you gave them that brochure. All you need is a signature page. Okay, it acknowledges that they have the brochure, and then have them sign the fee arrangement agreement. So real simple with a for sale by owners. Now, and you don't represent them, so remember that you're representing your buyer, but they do need to provide by state law a property disclosure and a mineral MOG disclosure, right? So you can provide that paperwork to them, you just can't help them fill it out. So absolutely, those are state forms created by the state legislature. So absolutely, if your client makes an offer on that for sale by owner property, make sure that that for sale by owner has a blank property disclosure and mineral oil and gas rights disclosure that they can fill out before you present that offer to purchase. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so that is something that you may run across quite a bit. So let's hit on the listing agreement then real quick. And as I said before, you guys do need to kind of allocate time block. Your day is in this period, so you're doing as much as you can and being productive. Obviously, lead generation is really important. But once you get the business, once you have your appointment, you need to make sure that you understand the forms. The only way to understand the forms is to kind of read it. And I know it's a boring read, and this is 11 pages long, but you at least need to be familiar enough to be able to fill in the blanks, because that's all you're doing in front of a listing appointment, is you're just filling in the blanks. So it's extremely important to be comfortable filling in the blanks in front of your sellers. Okay, if you're confident in what you're putting here, then they're going to be confident in you. If you're not sure what to put in some of these lines, then they're going to sense that, and it may make it a little bit uncomfortable for you. So look at that listing agreement, but just know basically it's filling in the blanks. When is a listing agreement going to take effect? It's going to take effect when both the seller and the firm is represented, and you're able to sign for the firm. So when both of you guys sign the listing agreement, that's when it's effective. Okay? You put in the property information. It's more than the street address. You need to have information down here at the bottom of page 1 as well. I'm going to move through this quickly. You need to disclose any fixtures that do not remain, so you need to know what are considered fixtures. In general, if it's attached to the house, it is considered a fixture. Although a refrigerator, which is not attached to the house and is on rollers, refrigerators are personal property. So if you have a refrigerator that is being left in the home, which is most common, you know, all the sellers should leave that kitchen refrigerator. What you want to do is put down the Samsung kitchen refrigerator to remain at no value. In other words, put down that personal property is staying on your listing agreement so that you can disclose that in the MLS. If there's something that's attached to the house that the sellers do not want to leave, make sure you identify that. Okay, they're going to take that $10,000 crystal chandelier out of the dining room, and they're not going to leave that. You know, that's a family heirloom. That's okay. But what you want to do is encourage them, guys, it's probably going to be smart if you take that down before we start showings, because once the buyer sees it, the buyer is going to want it, right?
So now just to make sure, like, so if saying that whole thing, if they're going to take it down before they start showing it, you don't have to put it on here.
Yeah, correct. Yeah,
Okay.
if you know for a fact that it's going to come down before the house is being shown, then you don't put that on here. But unless you give them a kind of time frame and you know that that's going to put down, I would put it on here initially.
Okay.
And then once it's down, again, you can change the remarks and delete those in the MLS for the listing sheet. But at the time you create that listing sheet in the MLS, which needs to be, actually as of tomorrow, it needs to be within 1 day after you list a home, 1 day, you put your sign goes in the yard, it's got to be in MLS now. So that is a little bit of change. That's under a new cooperation agreement to avoid pocket listings. So once we put a sign in the yard, we have to, per MLS rules, we have to get that in listed. So that doesn't leave you a whole lot of time unless you know they're taking that fixture down tonight. Then you might want to go ahead and put it in there, put it in your remarks, but then delete those remarks once it's done.
So that would probably go more along with like a coming soon.
Yeah, coming soon, where you have a chance, they have plenty of time, up to 21 days to do things, then you probably wouldn't have to worry about it in that situation. Firm's compensation, what are you getting paid? The total fee. Make sure you figure that total fee, which is negotiable. Is that true? Okay,
Yes.
It's probably going to be 6%, but you got to make sure that they know that that's not a fixed rate across the state of North Carolina. That is what Keller Williams charges and what you charge with your business.
Okay.
So 6%, and then here's where you break down what you're paying the buyer agent. Always use that middle box. Cooperate with buyer agents and offer them 3% or half of what you're listing it for. Okay, it's even a good idea, even if you have to take a reduced listing for whatever reason of say 5.5%, you want to try to offer the buyer agent a full 3%. Because if you offer them less, they're going to see it and they may not want to show your home. They may want to show your neighbor's home because they're getting a full 3% there. And they know if they show your listing, they only get 2.5%. So they could kind of steer their clients away from your property, which is not ethical, but we don't know that. Okay, we don't know whether they are or not. So if possible, I would always offer them a full share. Moving along very quickly, we were talking about marketing. So there's a delayed marketing. This is where you don't put a sign up or anything. Your listing agreement is effective today. But I'm actually putting carpet and having my house painted next week. So I'm not going to put it on the market till that's done. And we'll list it on May the 10th. Okay, that's delayed marketing, and you would put that date in there. However, coming soon, here we go. So your coming soon marketing is a little bit different. So Sandy and Kelly, coming soon, you put that sign in there today. You get it in the MLS within 24 hours, of course, but there's no showings for up to 3 weeks. And again, it can be the same scenario. I'm doing some painting and carpet replacement, so I don't want anybody to see my home until I get that done. It cannot be more than 21 days. However, it allows me to go ahead and market the home now. So the more marketing I do, the longer that marketing is in place. When that magic date rolls around and people are able to see the home, then you should have a lot of showings and offers like right away, because everybody's excited. You've generated a lot of excitement and interest the last week or two. So that's your coming soon. So that's a good thing. Current liens, again, we're going to make sure we know what the approximate balance is and put that on the listing agreement. So that's why you want to get a copy of their mortgage statement. Hey, their response could be, well, I do everything online. I don't get a paper statement in the mail. Oh, that's okay, Mr. Miss Seller. While I'm walking around and making some notes and taking pictures, would you mind going online and printing off a copy of your last statement? Yeah, you got to make them do that. Yeah, just that's a have to. Okay. Additional terms and conditions. There could be a lot of things that you could put down there. Maybe we're going to put down that they're going to do an automatic price reduction in 30 days if the home is not under contract, because they think the house is worth more than you do, more than what your market analysis indicates. Well, if it's not a lot more, then you still might want to go ahead and list it, but have that conversation now with your sellers about, okay, well, let's try to list it at your price, but just know that it's 21 to 30 days is the magic number. If we don't have it under contract by then, we need to do a price reduction. We got to do a price reduction, and you can put that in there. Seller agrees to reduce the price of the house by $10,000 if home is not under contract by May the 30th. It'll be very specific, and there's an additional form you would use to go along with that as well. We'll finish up on this and then open it up for questions for the next 3 or 4 minutes. Dual and designated agencies. So this is on page 9. So you always, 100% of the time, please have your sellers authorized. Dual agency right here. Everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
And designated agency. Designated agency means we both work for the same firm. Sandy and Kelly, it could be your listing, okay? And if they authorize dual agency, then they're saying that you guys have the right to bring a buyer in, and you can represent both buyer and seller, and you get paid on both sides. That's okay. The sellers have to authorize that, but that's okay. Now, you're walking a tightrope when you do that. You obviously have to be very careful. You don't share confidential information with either side, but you always have to have them initial that. And then along with that, you have to get them to initial designated agency. That enables me or anyone within the Keller Williams Cornelius office to represent the other side, to represent the buyer. So dual agency or designated agency is a form of dual agency. That's why you have to have both. You do not ever on a listing have the seller initial exclusive representation, because what exclusive means is you are telling all of our Keller Williams Cornelius agents, hey, I've got this great listing. It's just, it's just awesome. It's got a great price. Probably going to sell in the first day or so. but you can't show it because they don't authorize dual and designated agency. It's exclusive. You don't want to do that. Okay, because you're excluding some of the top producers around our office if you ever do exclusive. If you run into a situation where the seller doesn't understand that, you're going to ask for help. You're going to reach out to your broker in charge or your mentor or somebody from the staff to help overcome the objection. I've never seen an exclusive representation that wasn't by mistake. And then I said, would send that back and ask that you have it corrected in the initial dual and designated. If you explain it correctly, sellers are not going to have any issue with authorizing dual and designated. Now, if you're not comfortable representing both the buyer and seller, you're going to meet with your broker in charge, Rob Pettit, and you're going to have him designate an agent to represent the other side. Okay, that is the truest sense of designated agency. Your broker in charge will designate another agent to represent the other side for you. But you can still say, okay, if I'm going to do that, though, what I'm going to do is I'm going to refer it to Terry. Say Rob's going to appoint Terry to be the designated agent. Okay, so you're going to send Terry a referral agreement so you at least get something, right? I mean, you're basically giving the business to the other agent, so it's okay to refer it to them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, but don't be totally afraid of being a deal agent. You just ask for help if you run across that situation. And that's your listing agreement, 11 pages. It's, again, something that hopefully you'll be using a great deal in the coming year. And the first time that you're in a listing appointment, you're filling out that paperwork, it could be a little bit challenging. So try to fill out as much as you can before your appointment. That's okay. You know, some things you may not have answers to, but the more that you can fill out ahead of time, the easier it's going to be when you're in front of your sellers, because there's less information for you to have to fill in the blanks with. Basically, it's going to be, okay, what's the listing date, effective date, what's the sales price, what type of financing is the home qualify for, what's the lien amounts, things like that. All right, questions?
No, not so far.
No, I think I'm good so far.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, it's 1:51. Again, Pivot with PJs at 2 o'clock. I'm going to let you guys take a short break and hopefully hop on the call with that. Thank you for your participation today. You know how to reach me. Anytime you have broker in charge questions, I encourage you to please go to Rob Pettit first, because, again, I don't want to answer for Rob unless he's out of town.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's out of town, then I am a broker in charge and can answer for Rob. Otherwise, you know, it's more compliance type questions that, you know, you can direct to me. So
Okay, good.
have a great day.
You
Thanks
too.
so much. And y'all stay safe out there.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.